Hello, Flix fellas.
Hello,
Hi,
Kevin.
Kevin.
Hi. Welcome back, guys. This is fun. We're kind of in a groove now.
Yeah,
I
right.
know.
Although
It's
I
good
think
to be
it's been
back.
like 2 weeks.
Two things are a coincidence. Three things are a trend, Kevin. So we got to do one more time.
Hey, we're close. We're close. Well, I'm excited for this episode. I hope you guys are too. Being a big fan of the franchise, I'm excited to talk about this iteration. The movie.
I'm happy.
Go ahead.
I was going to just say I'm happy you're a big fan because I've never seen any of them.
Kevin
So
has
this was my
always been a
first.
big fan.
Always been a big fan.
Kevin, when we were kids, Kevin would like sit me down and be like, "We're watching AVP right now," and I'm like, "What?" And you're like, "We're watching AVP right now."
Yeah, and we'll talk about my history with Predator in a second, but the now no secret, the movie we watched this week is the Hulu original Prey. It stars Amber Midthunder. She plays Naru, a skilled warrior of the Comanche Nation who fights to protect her tribe against one of the first highly evolved predators to land on Earth. Directed by Dan Trachtenberg, written by Patrick Azon, Dan Trachtenberg, and Jim Thomas, who I guess wrote the original characters for Predator. Also starring Dakota Beavers, Dane DeLigro. DeLigro?
Me? Is that James reading the names?
James?
I'm sorry. Yeah.
Stormy, Kip, Michelle Thrush, and Julian Black Antelope. So Prey. And yes, James alluded to it. Obviously, I've been a fan of the franchise since I was a kid. AVP, which among fans of Predator, is one of the more controversial movies. Not very popular, but was my first kind of view into the world, and me and James watched it a lot. And then went back and watched all the old ones that came out in like the 80s and the 90s, and just been a fan ever since. So excited to talk about it, but I'm excited to hear what you guys have to think. So first reactions, I'm gonna give it to James first because James knows the franchise a little bit. We'll see what Joe has to say last. So we'll give James the reins first.
Again, I think I'm a little rusty. Like, I remember like Predator 1 like vividly. I remember Predators, that like remake they came out with in like 2017, 2016. It was a good one.
Mm-hmm.
But like a lot of the AVP stuff kind of blends together for me because it's been a minute. But I think it was a good movie. I thought it was a fun action movie. It wasn't super predictable. I liked there was a good progression to the climax of the movie. Like it definitely went further than I thought it was going to, which I liked. There were elements. It didn't have a lot of depth, but I feel like it didn't need to have a lot of depth. It was a very simple story, and I kind of respect them for keeping them like staying within their sandbox and like kind of really just delivering on what I thought they intended to. It's definitely a good action flick. It's one of the better streaming action movies I think we've watched. Like overall, I think there's like a very tropey, campy thing that like, Tomorrow War and like The Gray Man and like there's a lot of like very like, okay, this is the progression of story and it feels very like cookie cutter. Whereas this feels different in a good way. So I overall really liked it. I thought the action was cool. Definitely pretty gory. If you're not in for the gore, you got to be ready for it. But it was good. Joey, what do you think?
I'm glad we watched this because I can confirm I'm just not a fan of the genre, I think, because it was good quality, good acting. I think there was really good elements to it, but to me, I disagree with James. I think it was very predictable. It's about a girl who's told she can't, so she does. And I don't know, I thought it was predictable. I thought like it took 35 minutes before we like really saw the Predator in action. Like there's little alludiments.
Yes, yeah.
To him and like the alien spacecraft. I will say this: the one thing I was curious about, because they didn't really talk about it, and like I was kind of happy, but back then, the Native Americans, like, obviously there's no social media, no TV, no radio, no newspaper, nothing. Like, the Native Americans see like the Europeans come in, they look like them, they're different. Do you like think that like if this had been real, their first thought would have been like these are aliens from out of our planet, or do you think they would have
No
been like
way.
this is just from somewhere else on the planet?
No shot. I think they would think it was like an animal. Like there's no frame of reference. Like I actually, Joey, weirdly, I had the exact same thought. Where like one of them was like I think it was the older brother. I can't remember the name specifically, but the older brother was like, "Oh, we're gonna go hunt a lion." You know what I mean? And then they were
Mhm.
like walking through and they were looking at tracks and they're like, "Oh, a bear was here." And
Mhm.
I'm like, "Do you know what's crazy? Is they have to like they don't like know like if you've never seen a lion before, they don't go like look it up or go talk to other people and like figure out what a lion is. Like if they see a lion for the first time, they're like, "Holy crap, that's like a savage beast like that we just have to hunt now." You know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like they experience and learn everything for the first time, you know?
Yeah, I
There's
think
no
Yeah.
to
like
answer the
culmination of
question, I think
knowledge.
realistically, and they don't even ever talk about like she's never like, oh, it's from a different
It's an
planet. Like I
alien.
think they
Yeah.
legitimately just think that this is just an animal that they've never seen before. You know,
Yeah.
maybe when it's like bleeding neon green, she's kind of got this air of like this is a monster, but then at the same time you have to consider like you know, in the sci-fi realm, you know, maybe this is where a lot of like the you know the the stories come from, and it's like it doesn't sound real. And I think in the original Predator, the Native American guy in the squad, James, remember him, who wore
Mm-hmm.
the hat, he
Yeah.
talks about the Predator. And I this is kind of cool tie-ins that like if you didn't watch the originals or know the originals you wouldn't pick up on, but he talks about like the story of this predator. So
Yeah.
obviously in that universe, this has become a story rather
Yeah.
than
That's a very cool tie-in I didn't pick
yes.
up.
Yeah. So it's cool tie-in, but you're right, Joe. Like they would have no idea that it's from
It's an
outer
alien.
space. They don't even
Yeah.
fucking know what
Yeah.
outer space is. Like
Yeah, exactly.
Exactly. So just to wrap up my first reactions, I thought it was kind of a slow open, kind of predictable. Very good elements to it if you like the genre. It's not cheesy, it's not really that tropey. But it's not a movie for me. So
fair enough.
I'll
Heavy webby.
send it over to you.
Yeah, I mean, like no surprise, I really liked it. I think going into it and when I first heard about it, I had like a lot of doubts because you know it is campy action, and like you have to go into like any Predator movie that comes out with these doubts. And the last one that came out was truly just horrific, like just a truly horrific film. James,
What
we
was the last
talked
one that
about
came
it at
out?
your engagement party. That was the Predator with Keegan Michael Key, and then the guy from he was in we
I
watched
never saw that.
what was the movie with the future like murderer, but it ends up being the daughter that we watched?
Oh, Dark Side of the Moon.
Dark was it Dark Side of the Moon?
It's
Something like
something
that.
of the
The one
moon.
that takes place
Yeah.
in Philly. So that
I'll
guy,
look it up.
he's in it too. Dark of the Moon. Dark of the Moon.
Dark
No,
of the Moon.
it was no Dark's in the
I'm looking
shadows
it
of the
up.
moon.
In
In
the
the shadows of
shadow
the
of the
moon.
In the
moon.
shadow
That's
of the
definitely
moon.
what it
In
was.
the shadow.
Anyway, that guy is also in it, and Keegan Michael Key. And it's it's truly a horrific take on the Predator franchise. So coming off of that, had my doubts, but watching it, I was pleasantly surprised. I think it had a lot of good things. To Joe's point, I think the music was awesome. Like the music was
Yeah.
perfect. Acting was really good. I thought it was weird. Like some of them did like the traditional accent and like kind of played into that, but then sometimes they weren't, and like that kind of threw me off. Definitely doesn't ruin the movie. It's just like a little weird.
Yeah,
Um,
there was definitely a little like I also noticed that, Kevin, where there were certain acting performances that were clearly better than others. Like
yeah, I think
yeah.
she was good, but she didn't really do an accent. But she was consistent and not doing like the accent.
Yes.
The
Yeah.
brother
And you
was
don't
really
think
good.
The brother was super good.
Mhm.
I think he was one of the best actors in the whole film.
But then some of the like tribesmen, I was like, dude, this dude sucks.
The
like
dude
the
that was
one,
like a jerk. Yeah, the guy that was a
yeah.
jerk was so bad.
He
He was
was
literally like
so-
if you took like Biff from Back to the Future
Yeah.
and like sent him like he's just like seems like a bully. You know what
Yeah.
I mean? Like
So in general, acting was not bad. I thought the cinematography was really good, which is somewhat surprising in like a campy action flick that it has like really cool looking shots and like a really cool art style, like the fight in the when they're tied to the tree and it's like all smoky, like stuff like that. I thought was really good. And then overall, the director I really liked. I liked the way he did this movie and he doesn't have a long credit, this guy, but he has good credits. Like,
yeah, like it's
so
high quality.
he did Prey, which I thought was really good. He also did
Mhm.
an episode of The Boys,
Mhm.
Okay.
and then he also did one of my favorite episodes of Black Mirror, which isn't a more popular one, but he did Playtest. Remember Playtest? Where
Which
he's
one
in the
was that?
video game, like the VR video game.
Yes, the haunted
It's
house video
Kurt
game.
Russell's kid.
Yeah. You mean Striking Vipers? Yeah. I'm very familiar with that. very familiar with that episode.
Favorite
yes.
one.
He did
Favorite
that,
episode.
and then
Favorite
more
episode.
importantly, he did one of my favorite sci-fi movies of the like current century, like of our time,
Striking Vipers?
which was Striking Vipers, but 10 Cloverfield Lane, which I thought was a
Oh, that is a
fantastic
good
sci-fi
movie.
movie.
Yeah,
So
really good movie.
I think this movie had a lot going for it. I'm a little bit of a fanboy. I think I'm just happy that, you know, there was finally a good movie since Predators, which came out in like 2012. And even that one's just like good just for campiness. This one I thought was a good movie. Like all the other ones, this was definitely as good as, if not better than the original. And it moves away from just being a campy action movie to being an actual good movie.
I'll
You think
say
this
this
is better
too.
than Predator 1?
Dude, I think it might be better than Predator 1. It's so much. I know you said it's shallow, and I was going to argue with you about that in the actual movie, but I think it has so much more to it. Obviously, it misses, and I was going to say this to Joe too, but it misses the mystery of Predator, right? Like, the original Predator, what it has going for it is like, you don't know anything about this thing, right? Like, the movie starts out, they're going to that tribe, and there's just like skulls
They're in, like, the
with
jungle.
the spines like hanging up, and like the locals are just getting murdered by this mysterious thing. So this hit squad of like commandos go in there to try and fight it, and it literally fucks them up. And honestly, he doesn't even win. Like Arnold Schwarzenegger barely wins. Like he just survives. He just survives. The Predator literally just blows itself to Kingdom Come, and then
also like it's cloaked for most of the movie. Like you don't see it for most of the movie.
Right, which is what this film doesn't get, that mystery of like, and to Joe, you said like you don't really see it. That is true to form with the Predator movies, is you don't really see the Predator until the end because it's a predator and it's trying to, like, the fear and that scary part of the movies comes from that, like, holy shit, how do we beat him? I mean, Julia said it. I'm sitting watching it with Julia tonight, and she's just like every time he shows up and fucks something up, she's like, how are they gonna kill this thing? Like that's what it's trying to do, of like create this like omnipotent alien.
Yeah, and I get that. I have no issue with that. My point was the first 30 to 35 minutes of this movie feels more like an indie drama about a Native American girl and tribe than like a sci-fi action movie. And I don't love when, like, I mean, obviously I knew this was a sci-fi movie, so it didn't throw me off too much. Like I was expecting it. But I think if I truly had gone in, if this wasn't a franchise movie and I had gone in not knowing anything, I would have been like, what the fuck? Like, I thought I was watching this, and now I'm watching something totally different. So that's where I like would have liked to seen a little bit more like violence or something from the Predator, kind of even like more than just tracks, something to hint that it's this dangerous being early on and something like that. But I think
I think those are good first reactions. Let's see, James, are we pressing play or are you scrolling?
Well, I think there's a lot of fair points to be made. I think I'm still going to click play here, but I I know what you mean, Joe. Like there's definitely this is no striking vipers, so it's going to be a soft play from me.
Joey.
I can see why you'd play it if you like this genre. To me, it's not something I'm super interested in. And I think there's a lot of people who are like me. So I'm going to keep scrolling. If it is something you'd like, it is well done and you can watch, but I'm going to scroll.
I don't think there's a surprise here. I'm gonna press play. Really like the movie, and I do think it's a good watch, regardless of whether you're like into the Predator like series. You know, to Joe's point, if it's not your genre, it's not your genre. But if you're into kind of sci-fi, kind of slasher sci-fi, then I think you'll enjoy this even without any kind of exposure to the series.
I'm glad you just said that because I'll have a comment for the next section that I want to bring up.
Okay.
But
Ooh.
a little cliffhanger.
We'll save it.
He's coming for
Cliffhanger.
you.
I love it. I love it. All right. Well, we will be back with the full review. In the meantime, if you're enjoying our show, you like listening to us, and you want to hear more, go ahead, check out our YouTube channel. If you're here already, go ahead, hit subscribe. It really helps out. Helps us grow and build a fan base, and keep putting out good content and put out better content in the future. Let us know what you want to see, and then check out the socials. Flixfellas on Insta. We're on Twitter. Flix_fellas. Are we on Twitter?
Mostly
It
Instagram,
exists.
TikTok. Twitter exists.
TikTok.
I haven't live
We're
tweeted a
all
movie in a
Insta.
while.
Be real.
Yeah.
Should we have a Flixfellas Be Real?
We should have a Be Real. I do love comments. Like I honestly wish we would do I love it when people comment on videos because it's a really quick way for me to get right back to people. So keep those up too.
And we will see you after the break.